Do good work is not a label, but a way of living. It is the constant and diligent effort to achieve a new level of excellence in one's own life. It is the hidden inner beauty behind the struggle to achieve excellence. It's not perfect, but imperfect. It is the effort, discipline, and focus that often goes unnoticed. The goal of Do Good Work is to highlight that drive. The guests I have on this show emulate this drive in their own special way. You'll be able to apply new ideas into your own life by learning from them. We will also have one-on-one episodes with me where we'll dive into my own experience with entrepreneurship and leadership. Every episode is designed to provide you with ideas that you can apply and grow in excellence in all areas of your life, business, and career.
Welcome, everyone. Today we have Manuj Aggarwal. He's an entrepreneur, investor, author, and podcast host. He started his career at the age of 15, working at a factory for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, earning $2 a day. He's then shifted and grown significantly to be able to work within Fortune 500 boardrooms, consulting, working in tech, and teaching students today. And what he's done is he's reverse engineered what's gotten to where he's at today and help others apply the same into their life, their business, so that they can create an impact, so that they can help their community, so they can help their families and continue to grow their business. Or Manuj, thank you for being on.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So I'm really interested, and I would love to hear a little bit more about your story, your journey, how you took it from knowing that you can make a change in your life, knowing that there is opportunity out there for you, and how you transitioned from where you were at 15 to where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, as life happens, generally you really don't know what you want out of life, like especially at age 15 with nothing to sort of grab onto. So I didn't have a plan, to be honestly speaking, but something told me there is some possibility to do something better with my life. So I just sort of kept pursuing that one after the other. And obviously, as you sort of shoot for the stars, there are going to be so many setbacks, so many things that don't go right. And so, that was just for me, just a way for me to figure out, okay, this doesn't seem the right way. So let me try to find another way. So it almost became like a game with myself where I used to try so many different ways of moving ahead, trying to enroll myself into computer classes, finding a college which was almost free to learn something more about science and technology. Any ridiculous idea I could come up with, I used to try. And
Oh my gosh.
And then, obviously 90% of those ideas didn't pan out. And so the 10% that did pan out, I used to, double down on that and sort of kept pursuing it more and more. And that has been sort of the way that I work even today. Like, I don't know what I don't know, but, once I know, okay, there is a possibility that we can get to this goal, then I just start brainstorming with the team and say, okay, come up with the most ambitious ideas, come up with the most ridiculous ideas that you think that we can implement and which will get us to our final goal quickly. And so then, with all the ideas, we just sort of figure out, okay, what are the ones that are worth trying right now, which are in our wheelhouse, which are compatible with what we are already doing or within our budget and whatnot. And then ideas that work, we double down on those, and then the ideas that don't work, either we sort of learn some lessons from it or we just throw them away. And that's the way I work.
And that's the way it works. And I want to break that down because you shared a lot of wisdom in a very simple format. But essentially, when it comes to, you mentioned earlier that when you're 15 or even when you're younger, even when you're starting a new business or even when your business is successful and it reaches a new level, there is ambiguity of what the next step is. There's sometimes, have 100% clarity because no one knows the future, really. No one can control and see the future. So when you do that, you mentioned that action clears up and breaks any ambiguity. Action opens up the doors to different opportunities. And even if those actions may work out 9 of the 10 times for you mentioned, they may not work out, but the 10% that do, you refine. And for the 9 that don't work out, you learn. So refining and learning through taking action. When you've transitioned from there, what were some of the key points, key action points or key decisions that you made to allow you to make those fine-tune adjustments that you think that were pretty much game-changing for you?
Yeah, I mean, the key thing here is to get clarity on what exactly you want. What is the goal? Most people, what they do is, and again, I'm not criticizing anybody else's method. I just trying to generalize on, how I notice most people work and how my approach was a slightly different. So in most cases, let's say if we set a goal to earn $1 million by 2025. So in most cases, people will say, okay, let me figure out what are the ways I can make $1 million in these next 5 years, and then start to learn everything step by step. And then they say, okay, I've reached one step now. Let's look for the next step. Now let's look for the next step. And so they try to adopt a formula that has worked for other people. Whereas what I generally do is I say, okay, I want to make $1 million. So I don't want to look at other people's approaches. Let me just figure out what is the shortest and best path to get to $1 million. Let's come up with the most ridiculous ideas and then put them in a bucket and sort them out, right? So in this case, it could be, hey, $1 million, maybe I should buy a piece of land and sell it. And because if I get a good deal, I could be achieving that goal within 2 years rather than 3 years. Or let's say launch an app or whatever it is. And now I try to look at these ideas and say, okay, which one of these have worked consistently for others? And those are the ones I pick. Again, I try to not drink too much of other people's Kool-Aid and not drink my own Kool-Aid. So just trying to figure out those ideas, trying to put the probabilities in my favor, because as you know, in life, nothing is certain. But there are certain things you can do, which is to study the past performances, study the patterns, study the context of where
to
what
lower your risk. Yep.
You're working in, lower the risk, and put those odds in your favor. So it's just like a casino, right? A casino, every customer who enters the casino may end up losing some money to a lucky customer. But overall, if they have enough data points, if they keep doing consistently what they are doing, mathematically, it is impossible for them to lose money, right? So if you adopt that methodology in your life, in your business, where you say, okay, I want to achieve a goal, but rather than taking one shot at it, I'm going to take 10 smaller shots at it and see which ones work and lower the risk accordingly for me. And then out of those 10 shots, 2 will work, and then now you can sort of carry on with those 2 and see where they take you.
I want to dive into that, but before we do dive into the shots and how you break down a big goal into small chunks, what were some of your most ridiculous ideas that you've implemented?
All right. That's a good one. Some of the crazy ideas. Starting from my enrollment into the Computer Institute. So I was earning $2 a day. When I was 15, a Computer Institute opened up in my town, and so they had a 1-year diploma program, which the cost was more than my yearly salary. So I was like, okay, how do I do this? How do I figure it out? And obviously, the first year I couldn't figure it out, and I didn't have money. The next year, I said, okay, I need to make a lot of money in order to enroll. Things I did was not something I'm proud of. So I started selling these questionable vitamins and supplements to my friends. Okay, skinny friends who wanted to gain weight. So I sourced some material from like ridiculous, like no-name brand. I had no idea, whether this is gonna work. So in order for me to make sure that this is going to work for other people and it was safe, I tried it on my own first, and I gained like I don't know 20 pounds in a month. And
oh my gosh, that's a huge bulk.
Yeah, so then I said, okay, this is safe, so I can sell it. So I started selling that, and that was one of the most ridiculous ideas. But that is not to say I didn't try more ridiculous ideas. That gives you an idea about my ideas.
No, that's good. You got crafty. You saw an opportunity. You saw what you needed to get to, where you wanted to get to, and an opportunity to get there. So, I mean, it's all a learning phase. And again, you're 15. So
Yeah.
But I want to dive now into, you said that instead of taking one big approach, to break down into probably 10 different approaches or similar approaches. And this is obviously to mitigate risk. How do you take that one main approach and break it down? If it's different ideas, are they the same ideas? How do you go on your plan of attack?
It's all about deconstruction at a fundamental level, right? So let's just say again, going back to $1 million goal in 5 years, you could look at it in different ways. Okay, you can say, okay, do I want to earn $1 million in one shot, or do I want to earn $100,000 with 10 opportunities? And now you can say, okay, if I want to earn 100,000 with 10 opportunities, that sounds a little bit safer, because going after one opportunity may or may not work out. Secondly, time is something that we cannot get back. So
Yeah.
let's say if I go after a big shot and I miss, then I will be left nowhere. I'm just brainstorming here. It may or may not work out that way. But let's say I say, okay, I'm going to earn $100,000 from 10 opportunities. So let's now break it down. What are the key things we can do in 10 of these opportunities? So one could be, hey, let's start an e-commerce store. What kind of e-commerce we want to start with? So let's just look at what is the context of the environment we are working in. Right now, people are home, they are emotionally charged, they are, not looking at spending the way that they used to spend, which is, more vanity based, more, whatever we want to showcase as our personality, because a lot of us are working from home, but we are concerned about safety. We are concerned about, how to utilize our time, upskill ourselves, masks, those type of things. So now I can sort of, understand the psychology a little bit of people that we are dealing with. And then we can pick some ideas which are more relevant to the current context. Selling masks could be another one. But obviously we'll need to do some research whether masks are something that people are buying, or there are many more competitors who are selling something. And then, we can come up with the idea and say, okay, let's just sit with this masks idea for e-commerce and see if it will work. If we find a lot of competitors selling masks, okay, can there be an innovative way of differentiating ourselves to sell masks? I've seen masks where, they have a transparent sort of a slot on the mask which can show your lips. It makes it more personable. So maybe that's one niche that we can target, where we are not going to be facing a huge competition from a lot of people. Or we could say, okay, let's go to local companies and tie up with them, and then sell branded masks. So they become like a corporate gift item, something along those lines. So as you can see, like within 5 minutes, we can start to refine that idea to a point where it sounds a little bit reasonable, and then we can take it to a marketplace and say, hey, I'm thinking about this mask idea, and it's going to have this transparent slot in it. We can also put your brand. What do you guys think? We can talk to 20 people, 30 people, 40 people.
It's breaking it down.
If out of 40 people, 30 say, this is the most ridiculous idea I've seen, and but don't stop there. You can get more feedback. You can say, that's interesting. Can you tell me more? Why do you think it's ridiculous, right? And because most people, one thing I will say, I'll digress a little bit. In this process, you have to check your ego. You have to put your ego aside, so that you can get to the bottom of the what is going on. Because you will get a lot of people saying negative things to you. You will hear things like, oh, this is a total scam, this is a total, you're a scam artist, whatever it is. And I've heard those things myself in many places. But then instead of getting discouraged, you say, oh, okay, that's a very interesting way to look at it. Tell me a little bit more. What experience led you to believe that this is not a good idea? And so that I can keep refining it. Because those are the concerns that if you're talking to a prospect and they have a concern, then some other people may have the same concern. And now you can take that feedback and incorporate that into your idea and keep refining it. But let's say out of 40 people, you get a yes or a maybe from 30 people. That's a very good sign that you are onto something. But don't stop that research right there, because a lot of people, when you talk to them, they can be polite and say, they don't want to
they don't tell you up front
their true feelings to you, because they are afraid of hurting you. So then you can say, okay, I really appreciate your feedback, but let's say I put this product or service in front of you. Will you pay for it? And then that's when that rubber hits the road, because now, even if they were being nice to you, they have to think, okay, if this idea is not good enough, how do I even pay for it, right? So they will have to be honest with you at that point and say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, maybe, yeah, but not at this point. And that's your key sign that it may not be an idea that will make you money. And then don't stop there. Say, if somebody says, okay, maybe, or yeah, I'll pay for it. Okay, how much will you pay for it? What kind of what will it produce for you? What is the value do you think you'll get out of it? What kind of time saving you'll have, so that you can price your item for one, product or service. Secondly, now you're getting to some concrete feedback, which you can relate to and say, okay, if I bring this product or service to market, I've gotten 80% positive feedback, and 80% of the people said that I'll pay $50 for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a concrete idea with concrete market research, with concrete price points, and then you can say, if I can make this mask at $20, and after paying for all the ads, all the distribution costs and whatnot, the final price comes to $30. Okay, now I have something that I can go after, right?
Yeah.
So you can repeat this whole process for other ideas and so on.
So it's breaking it down again. From big picture clarity, where you're heading towards. From there, what are some different ways to mitigate risk in order to achieve it? And then you went super granular from there. It's like, okay, this is a tangible idea. These are the metrics I need to hit. This is the actual output and outcomes in order to achieve that. So I like how you break that down from big picture to like mid picture to like very granular. And it's a similar process that I take through Productive Profit. So I love that line of thinking. Now, you mentioned something key, and I think it's very important, two aspects of it. One, the current situation. Two, with letting go of your ego. And I'm curious to know, when you've worked with leaders, executives, people in Fortune 500 boardrooms, how have you been able to navigate decisions, teams, or change by lessening of the ego and understanding more of the outcome? What are some of the tips that you can give there?
I wish there was an easy answer to that, because ego is, something that we all have it. And to be honest, all the positive outcomes, all the negative outcomes, they are just part of, how the ego is reacting to certain facts, right? For me, for my own self, yeah, I mean, it has been a long journey to get here, to sort of, to be able to put aside my ego, because, we all carry a lot of baggage from our past experiences. So things like, any criticism can trigger sort of hidden feelings inside you, which have nothing to do with what the project that you're working on, but it has all to do with how you were treated by other people in the past. So those same experiences get triggered when you hear any negative comments on your work. But the way to handle that, again, practically speaking, I will say, I will mention the M word, meditation, and yoga and things like that. It really helps you understand your own psychology and understand other people's psychology in such a way that you can say, okay, you are trying to criticize me, so obviously there is a reason behind it. So let me try to understand that reason, rather than take it upon me to say, I'm going to go back into my past life and pick that negative experience and relive it because of this criticism that I'm facing right now.
And so, you talk to to people on the teams, or essentially when you're leading change, you're implementing ideas, or you're helping teams make a transition, or even adapting to what's currently happening. You take those criticisms, those ideas, and you address it in that way. It's like, let me learn more about your situation and why you feel that way.
Exactly. And similarly, if working with a lot of executives, obviously they have more than usual, they have big egos, but just because the world has proven that they have something of value, that they have reached that status because they are critical thinkers. They have what it takes to execute and get the results. So obviously that builds up their ego. But in that case, what you can do is you can ask leading questions, stoic questions, which do not directly challenge their conclusion, but you can lead them, say, oh, that's interesting that you bring up that point. But in order for us to reach this goal, these are the things we are going to be tackling. What do you think about that? How do you think we can tackle this detail versus this detail? Do you think that will be conducive? And if they say, oh, let me think about it, and then we can start to present a few facts that are, again, leading them to the right solution, not challenging them.
It's almost like a mediator, right? You're mediating between the situation and the people involved or the leaders involved, and making sure that we're driving on track.
Exactly.
Specifically, because change, I think implementing new ideas is one part, right? To implement a new idea and actually developing that effectively with the team to get buy-in. But the bigger, I think, difficulty that can come with it is managing change and facilitating change. How have you seen successful ways of doing that? I know there's not one button, one flip the switch and it all worked, but what are some of the ways that worked for you that our listeners can apply?
Change is is something that we have to get comfortable with. Like life is all about change, is all about growth. Like if you want to stay in one place, then you have to let go of the idea of growing. So that's number one. If you want to grow, then you have to embrace change, and you have to embrace change in such a way which is unpredictable, which is going to have a lot of setbacks, and it's just part of the process, right? So if you say, okay, I want to achieve this goal, then you have to say, okay, there's going to be a trajectory which looks like a zigzag upwards trajectory, where when
always upwards though, but still
exactly,
up and down. It's not going to be just linear.
Exactly. So in that case, again, we can break down that goal into smaller chunks and say, what are the minimal steps I can take today, such that even if I go wrong, it's not going to hurt me. It's not going to like bankrupt me. It's not going to make me fall sick, or just bring about disastrous results.
So not making crazy risks, right? Being smart with your risks.
Exactly. So you put a small bet and you say, okay, let's see what happens. And then you can do the same thing with your team, and you can let your team know that making mistakes is okay. A lot of leaders, they have this idealistic view of their team that we have hired the perfect human beings on the planet of on this planet, who are capable of doing exactly the thing that we ask them to do, even though we ourselves may lack communication skills, clarity, exact steps of what needs to be done, and we tend to expect a lot from others in terms of perfection. So if we just say, okay, I'm imperfect, and the team that I'm working with, they are imperfect, we are just going on this adventure together and figuring out what works, what doesn't work. So then you can say, hey team, this is where we are going. Let's start a small step, and let's not risk the farm on this, but make sure if you make a mistake, you note down what are the lessons you learned from it, so that we don't make that mistake again. On top of that, let's try to put in some system in place so that automatically the system itself prevents us from making those mistakes. Like let's say if we miss a meeting, then let's adopt a calendar system where we will have less likelihood of missing those meetings in the future. If we miss the sale, let's implement some sort of a
fallback systems.
Follow up with the customer and whatnot. So those are the things that we can implement to adopt change in a manageable way.
And I think that's really smart. And I want to put it on repeat if I could. This is still live recording, but for the podcast listener, put on repeat again the part where Manuj mentioned that I'm an imperfect leader. I'm running a team with imperfect human beings. No one's perfect. Let's figure this out together. I think that is so critical, because even myself, when I'm working with clients or I'm working with teams, and I'm seeing like, oh, how can we minimize errors by the team? Why are they not doing things right? I mean, there's some things that we can work on, like you mentioned, creating systems, creating protocols, creating fallbacks, creating dashboards and reporting, like all that fun stuff, right? But it's also accepting, and not just accepting that we're not going to get things right, but being able to not over stress over one issue, as opposed to working holistically to make forward progress. Like you mentioned, it's not going to be always linear. It's going to be up and down, up and down.
Yeah, exactly.
In one of the questionnaire, so for the listeners, any podcast guest that comes on, we fill out a question. One of the questions is like, what's your mission? Why are you doing what you do? And Manuj, I'd love to dive into specifically, you mentioned to start an entrepreneurial movement, like a new era. And I want to know, what do you see right now in the marketplace? What's exciting you about that?
Yeah. Well, I come from a background of science and technology, and it has given me a lot of success in my life, and I just genuinely enjoy creating new things, bringing new innovations to the market. So that's what my life was like. I was working with a lot of startups and, helping entrepreneurs build their products, turn around their companies. But since March 2020, due to this COVID, what I'm seeing is life has taken a turn at a fundamental level. And what I mean by that is, we are in a slow transition. Like, this is a significant event in human history, if I can put it that way, because never before, we were at home in billions and billions numbers, just working from home remotely. We were forced to go out and mingle and work in a congregate in office buildings and things like that. But since March 2020, like a huge percentage of the population is sitting at home working, yet the world has not stopped, right? Whereas if you go back to previous pandemics, 1950, 1920, pretty much even if you're sick, you got to go to work and you got to produce things like electricity, things like drinking water and all that. So there was no way to get around that. But now humanity has, invented this whole thing about the internet, the technology, and all these things, which have enabled us to not miss a beat, even though we were working from home. So as people start to wake up, as they start to realize that, the whole economy that was based on some paradigms which were not really useful to us, meaning, you have to fly over and to another country and shake hands to sign sheet of paper to sign a deal. If we couldn't do that, the client will say, oh, I'm going to go with somebody else who's local. But those constraints are no more. We can do business with companies from across the globe, and the expectation of you flying, it's not an expectation anymore, because we have become so comfortable with remote work, establishing remote relationships, working on remote deals, that fundamental paradigm of society has just dropped off within few weeks. So as these paradigms take shape, industries like hotel chains, industries like commercial real estate, industries like airlines, they are going to go through a huge transformation, because people are not going to need all that infrastructure anymore to be able to work. Now, how that transforms the economy is anybody's guess. I don't know. But let's say 20, 30, 40% of commercial real estate industry doesn't exist anymore in 2 years. It will have a ripple effect on the whole economy, because one industry is closely tied with other sub-industries that are feeding that industry. So, and you see the GDP numbers, like, GDP number in US dropped 40% this year. Even during the financial crisis of 2008, we experienced, I think, like 10, 12% or something. Even through Great Depression, like 1930s, which is the most devastating economic era, we experienced about 25% GDP drop. So here we are, 6 months later, after coronavirus, the GDP dropped 40%. So these are unprecedented numbers, and we are not seeing all this right now, because it takes a lot of time for the economy to settle down and all the effects to show up. But the end effect of this is that a lot of people are going to lose jobs, which is already happening. A lot of companies are going to go through bankruptcies and things like that. So it is going to be a painful period, economically speaking. And entrepreneurship is the answer to that, because entrepreneurship, if you look at it, is nothing else but solving other people's problems.
Correct.
Right? So if we are going through a period of turbulence where a lot of people have problems and they're all looking at each other, hey, how do I solve my problem? If you can bring a solution to that problem, then you are in business. And not only you are in business, you're making money, you're helping other people solve their problems, and it all sort of works out. So that sort of is my answer to why I want to encourage a lot of other people who have skills, who have solutions, to look at entrepreneurship, because of the period that we are going to go through.
And I think that's first of all, I like your analysis because you go through through numbers, through trends, and through, keeping it open. And we don't know the answer. We don't know what's going to happen. But I also like one of the mindset shifts that me personally that helped a lot is entrepreneurship is probably the safest bet than even having a job, because you're able to create products or services to specific markets that you like, to work with customers that you can actually add value to, and that value add trickles down and helps out the economy. So I like that you've positioned entrepreneurship as the answer in not just the sole answer, right? Again, nothing's flip the switch. There's no easy button, but it is an answer in order to provide value to companies as where there's shifts. Some shifts are good, some shifts are different. Some companies are experiencing high growth. I mean, we've seen all kinds of different trajectories here during this last 6 months, as you mentioned. So as entrepreneurship is a solution that you're seeing, what are some of the tips for companies who are growing or companies who have experienced stagnant growth? How would you suggest them to create new products or services under the company umbrella, or how are you suggesting current companies that have some success or have had success to move forward and keep the risk low, but also, like you mentioned, have some outrageous ideas?
What I've seen is success is good. It feels good, but it can also be dangerous, because once you're successful, you become complacent. And as we are going through these turbulent times, as I said, nobody can imagine what kind of shifts are going to happen. Today, these companies are experiencing growth. Tomorrow, it could dry up like that, because something fundamentally changed. Something, let's take TikTok, for example, right? TikTok growing massively like there is no tomorrow. And in comes a ban from a few countries, like India banned TikTok, and US is talking about TikTok, banning TikTok. Now, nothing to do with technology, nothing to do with any of the marketplace movements, but it's an unforeseen event that has happened, and that is a result of overall uncertainty, overall complex climate that we are in right now, right? So in these cases, you have to keep your ears and eyes open for, what are some of the unexpected things that will come your way, and what are some of the things that you can do to preempt them, and also prepare yourself for, how do we, like, if that happens, how do we deal with it? How do we find new markets? How do we find
Contingency plans? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always, you will notice successful companies, they never rest. They never say, okay, we have captured this market, so now we are good, and there's no need to, there's no need to innovate anymore. And if you don't do that, you become Kodak, right? But if you are open and you continuously notice the shifts that are happening, you always say, okay, these pastures are almost dry now, so let's move on to new pastures. Let's focus on finding new marketplaces. Let's see if we can add a new complementary product into our product mix. Let's see if we can provide a little bit more value and raise our prices a little bit, so that we can bring in that additional revenue, right? So you really have to be flexible enough to make those decisions and plan for those. So again, I wish there was a silver bullet answer, but
There's not. No.
You just gotta figure out what is best for you, for your industry, for your marketplace. And of course, if somebody needs specific help, we do provide that. We study what exactly they are trying to do. We study data science, we study human behavior, we study psychology, and we put it all together to come up with a unique solution for that company.
That's highly valuable, because when it comes to measuring the market trends, the shift, your market share, and identifying what's the next 3 best moves, the next 1 best move for your industry, it's completely different because it's like providing a sticker cookie cutter solution to a human body. Like, let's say you tell me to do, I don't know, 20 miles a day of running, like that's not going to work for me, but for someone else, it might work for them. Right. So it's dangerous to be able, like you mentioned, to have a silver bullet solution. But I think it's looking at the entire mix, like the marketing mix, your brand mix, and understand your products, where customers are at, what are the trends happening. It's a lot of different components and different factors. Where can listeners go to learn more about, what you do and see about what you're up to?
Yeah, I mean, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the safest bet. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. But you welcome to check out my podcast, Bootstrapping Your Dreams. welcome to go to my website, tetranoodle.com. But yeah, I mean, having a one-on-one conversation is the best way to move forward quickly. So LinkedIn is my recommended choice.
LinkedIn is the go-to. Well, Manuj, I appreciate and thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you.